Oh, I want to touch on something beforehand.
Please, what's up, buddy? I'm sorry.
I thought,
I'm like leaning over and watching my TV.
yeah, me too. I thought AEW did a real nice job making that crowd look good yesterday.
They did. I thought so too.
The place looked really nice.
Now there was a few. Now the problem, the negative side to that was I felt like as the crowd tired out, it was hard to get them to react, and so you just kind of saw a ton of people sitting there. But that's a 6-hour show. That's going to happen. But I wholeheartedly agree, and I felt like early in the show, it looked great, like with arms in the air and people cheering, and there were signs up. I feel like people were getting too tired to hold up their signs by the end of it. But I felt like they made it look as good as possible. Do we know what the final?
No, we can ask somebody in the chat if he wants. If we can ask someone in the chat if they want to pop on.
Oh shit! I didn't even see him in there. Well, I mean, yeah, I can send him a request if he wants to come and speak. He knows more about that stuff than I do.
He just sent me a thing. Go ahead and add him.
All right. Yep. No, but I just invited MJ to speak. By all means, buddy. I wasn't even paying attention to the crowd. I just been yapping away.
That's why I said, guess who showed up for me?
Oh, all right. I thought you said on TV. You said that. I looked up and saw Shawn Michaels. So my bad. All right. Yeah, I sent him the invite.
I'll be real interested to see what their actual numbers are, but I thought it looked good. It looked real nice. Even if they gave away a shitload of tickets, I don't care as long as it looked good. It's fine.
Well, if they gave them away and they showed up, great.
Seems like they did. It seems like they did because there weren't. I mean, camera shot. Obviously, what we saw.
Yeah. No, and and I'm sure there was a lot of sides that they didn't have. But I mean, if you have people with free tickets, just file them into the spots where they can be seen on camera. What's up, MJ? Do you know the final? Well, I guess the distributed counting. I wouldn't call it sales.
Hey, gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Good, buddy. How are you? It's been a minute.
How dare you?
Well, I come here on important matters related to All In and AEW and some of the news that we're seeing come out this afternoon or this morning. I don't know. I've been offline for most of the day. Just checked back in. But yeah, no, the distributed, it was over 25,000 distributed. And, we have this tier of, this hierarchy, right? Distributed, which includes all comps and handed out tickets and sales. We have, sales, which are all tickets sold. And then we have, what was made famous a few years ago with the turnstile count, which is essentially how many people were actually in the building. And you can define that in two ways. If you were to split this off into kind of like two different lanes, you have how many people were in the building. Promoters like to include the ghosts of Tom Joad. They like to include concession, salespeople. And they also have fans, right? What's the turnstile count of the fans, which you presume are the ones who have gone through a turnstile. And of course, some fans don't go through turnstile. In the case of AEW, you have to wonder, like, media, what do they count as? Are they fans? Are they super fans? Are they honorary guests and things of that nature? But 25,000, I mean, I saw Tony Khan say it could be upwards of 30 with the walk up. One thing's interesting. They don't go on right away after the show anymore with the scrum, the post show. Mm-hmm. And if you notice, Hunter, and I don't want to do the tribalism thing. Look, I enjoyed the show. It was an abuse of my time. But I did enjoy it for what it was. I don't know how any show could be that long and not be called out for it. But that aside, if you watch, I just watched the Kenny Okada match fresh, right before I joined you guys. And I was like, let me watch this in the absence of 7 other hours. And it was much better. It was much better than I actually thought it was yesterday when I was just burnt out of my eyes are bleeding.
Yeah.
But going back to the business side, right? Hunter shows up at his press scrums, press shows, press conferences, media shows. I don't know what you call them, post shows. And he immediately has in front of him a piece of paper with all the statistics on the business, the gate, the attendance, viewership.
Yep.
So I do find it alarming, not alarming, but questionable is probably a better word. Not alarming, but I find it questionable that Tony Khan doesn't. We used to get a guy like a Brandon Thurston or a Dave Meltzer in the room, back when they used to go to the shows. Now they don't go to the shows. But they used to attend and ask him about pay-per-view buys, and he'd give what the early buys were, or he'd give a range, or we talk about the gate. Right now, anything being reported was basically everything said prior to the show. Tony Khan is the one who said it would do upwards of $3 million, if not more. The pay-per-view buys, he's saying based on early buys, and of course, you know how much that actually translated. Like the idea is you're buying a pay-per-view the day of on Prime or on YouTube. Like, I don't know many people that are calling the cable company the days before.
It's not like the old days where you had to like get the box sent to you or whatever. Or you just buy it day. I buy it like a moment of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I monitored the YouTube views, right, because viewership on YouTube for a purchased pay-per-view, it tells you right there what the viewers are. And it went progressively up throughout, I'd say, the first several hours of the show. I can't believe the show was that long that it went up through the first several hours, right? But it peaked by the triple main event at around 9.6 thousand. It started off in the, 4 to 5,000 range. So it did spike up as the day went on, which is probably not a normal for a show that's running literally all fucking day. Can I curse on here? I forget.
Yes, absolutely.
So we can walk that into, an extrapolation activity, which is, according to Dave Meltzer, take that for what you will. Double or Nothing did around 120,000 buys. Seems like every show does 120,000 buys. It's like,
right? That's what I was,
your 10 pult shows, 120,000 buys. And your secondary shows, 105 or 110. It's like the same numbers, which is kind of,
it's constant.
Yeah. So anyway, 120,000 buys for Double or Nothing, and their YouTube views peaked at around 6.6 thousand. So that's roughly 5%. So if you take 5%, or if you take total buys and you say 5% is coming from YouTube at 9,000 plus, you're looking at 180,000 buys. And if you look at the increase, and Switchblade 97 did this, where he said it's up 42%, if you just did that off the 120, you'd be like in the 170 range. And I actually think that makes sense because that would track back to previous All Outs as well as Revolution, where Sting retired, which did around, right? So that is realistic. There was a number put out by Tony Khan himself that was unrealistic earlier in the week. He talked about the gate being in excess of like 2.5 million, and at the time it was only 20 to 23,000 tickets out. And if you just do some basic math, what you would realize is that the average ticket price did not increase it did not decrease from the original on sale, right? It did 9,990 at the original on sale for a gate of an estimated 1.25 million. So it was about like $125 a ticket. And when you see that at like the week of the show, ticket, like the ticket prices went down. Like it's just a fact that ticket prices were lowered for certain sections that did sell. So how could the ticket price not have changed? Now at closer to 27 to 28,000 total sales. By the way, that number, right? That was like if I took the total numbers distributed. So we talked about the fact that not all of that was sales. So you're telling me that there's zero comps and somehow the ticket price did not go up or down? Like it doesn't, you see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Does not compute.
Right. Math ain't mathin', as the kids say.
Right. Yeah.
Which I think I learned this last week and a half, 2 weeks, that I am definitely not a kid online watching wrestling.
Man, it happens fast.
Well, when you see like actual kids who are engaging in the IWC discourse, it does give you pause to realize like I am goofing on or making jokes out of literal kids and freaks and geeks, and part of me feels bad. And you know what? At the end of the day, like everyone grows up and everyone matures at different rates, and maybe making jokes at their expense isn't the greatest thing to do for laughs, even though like we all laugh at it, right? But like, I don't know, I had that reflection moment. It was so cute. A bunch of them were posting pictures from the what'd they call it? The all-in access? No, what's Conrad's shit?
Starcast.
Yeah, they were doing this thing at Starcast. All these kids posting these pictures, and I'm just like, damn, man, like these are people that like say vile shit online, but like, you know what? They deserve to like spend $50 to get a picture with John Moxley too. It ain't my money. So
yeah, I got no problem with them my issues are never with them wanting to do it and loving it. My issue is they tell me that I have to, or I'm stupid, or I don't.
Yeah, it's the toxicity, right? It's the vileness that comes from them. And then you realize, like, they are kids and they are greatly influenced by grown-ups that are not really mature grown-ups. And we saw that play out this week where it's like, look who they take the cues from. And we've seen that over the history of time, right? With like AEW and Tony Khan and you see a Ricochet. It's like, well, look who they take their cues from. And so that's another topic. The last one is this matter of Adam Cole, which I've said a lot, so I'm going to pause so that I can take a drink of water. But I don't know. What do you guys think of the things I put out there?
It's interesting to me because I don't understand any of this stuff. So for me, I just like to know like who was there. I don't really care how they get there as long as they're there. You know what I mean?
What do you mean? Like how many people?
Yeah. I like to know like when like if you get a box, if you're in a box. Luxury suite or whatever they're called now?
It did not appear like any luxury suites were sold because if you looked on the broadcast throughout the night, that section was routinely dark.
Okay.
And there was there's a ring around that stadium. It did not, there was, however, a VIP like kind of setup that I saw some pictures circulating online and man, that, you ask people to spend $1,400 on a VIP thing, like you get like 20, 30 people, like maybe you do have to change your pricing strategy or what you're offering. But yeah, look, if you remember, you guys probably go way back with this, right? Like All in 2018, pre AEW. It happened because Dave Meltzer said no non-WWE wrestling show would draw 10,000 people. And we can shit on AEW. We can make fun of AEW. It certainly deserves it at many points in time. And it did deserve it when ticket sales were extremely lackluster. It did deserve it when there was a lot of hyperbole by people who swore it would get to selling out a baseball stadium, 30 to 35, 40,000 tickets.
They were going to beat Raw in the ratings.
Right. But at the end of the day, like, let's say the turnstile count, the amount of people in the building was 20,000. It damn near doubled what Dave Meltzer said couldn't happen. And yet Dave Meltzer will be the one to be like, of course it happened. But at the end of the day, like, he didn't believe that this could be a thing years ago. And maybe that's why he overcompensates as hard as he does. But that is something that does deserve mention even by, the most formidable haters. That if we go back no less than like 10 years ago, this would be unthinkable. And it did happen. And it's happened before. I was at the Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe Stadium. The first stadium show they ran in North America. Notice that tagline quickly disappeared after that got pointed out.
Right.
There's a lot of gaslighting that goes on, a lot of revisionist history, a lot of like, tricks of the trade, if you will, and wordplay. I would technically argue that last night was held at a field. It wasn't held at a stadium. It's Globe Life Field. Arthur Ashe Stadium was a stadium.
It's literally in the name.
Yeah, so, it's good to see just from as a wrestling fan at the end of the day, I think we're all wrestling fans. It's good to see that, that there is an appetite for wrestling. We see what WWE does with Mania and SummerSlam and Royal Rumble. Obviously this is not even a comparable product in terms of demand and or marketability or mainstream attention, but it is as a wrestling fan, like somewhere deep inside, I do actually feel like a sense of like, that's cool. Like it's not for me anymore. It's definitely not for me anymore, but it's cool.
Well, and that's the thing, like, and that's it. If more of them viewed their self that, like, whether it's the talent, the ownership, the people behind the scenes, the fans, if they just focused on, hey, we're enjoying this. This is awesome. We love this. If people want to come watch it, great. Like, but instead it's like, no, if you don't like this, you don't know wrestling. You don't think this, you're not even a wrestling fan if you don't think that show was good and crap like that. Like, I've said it from day one, if they would have just focused on themselves and making their product the best it can be and not caring about punching up to Big Brother or being the challenger brand or whatever, they would have been better off with it. But, from day one, they have only focused on, beating WWE and being better than WWE. And it's only ever hurt them,
They made
it just drives me nuts.
They made it the brand identity. And you know what's funny is it was made the brand identity. It was adopted by the fans. The sicko culture is very, very tribalistic. They're very bloodthirsty. You now have a combination of, you know, a lot of the AEW support comes from anti-WWE outlets and anti-WWE fans who just cannot stand the idea that professional wrestling is at the scale that it is. And so they have this, and that's great. Stop making it such an ugly thing online.
Right.
People make fun of WWE. We make fun of WWE.
Yes.
Like, we make fun of AEW. That's kind of always been wrestling, right? How many people watched WWE from like 2008 all the way to 2021 and basically was like, this fucking sucks, but we still watch and talk about it.
They've weaponized the fan base. They've turned our fandom against us. And that's basically...
Oops. No, I meant to put you, my bad. Sorry, Anthony. I tried to move you in the thing. No, he's back. You're back, Anthony. My bad. Now, Twitter moved you on the screen for me. What's up, buddy? You're back. Oh, shit. Yeah, you're back, bud. You're able to speak.
I don't know if this is what Anthony was going with, but they did weaponize the fandom. And who is they?
Yes.
Right? Who is they? And I'm gonna very explicitly state that, and this is the vitriol you see towards dirt sheets. This is the vitriol you see to those who profess to be pro wrestling journalists or media or bloggers or gossip columnists, whatever you want to call them. They weaponized the fandom because when AEW came around, they gave them double the amount of things to talk about and cover. And in the way to fuel that was to put the fan base against each other and try to replicate the 90s with WCW and WWE. And if you were around in the chat rooms back then, it wasn't much different. However, it wasn't as pervasive as what has become online social media today. And all these people basically decided we need to fuel this rocket because this is what pays our bills. And I feel bad for them because I don't know if they can look themselves in the mirror and say, I'm a pro wrestling fan first, or I am somebody that monetizes pro wrestling first. And the fact that they monetize it and this is their life and this is their work and this is like, that's cool. But did you have, that has come at the expense of pitting fans against each other, pitting fans against media, because it's not just that they want fans like Brandon Thurston, will push ratings charts despite talking on his shows about how ratings don't matter as much anymore, but he will publish the ratings chart so that people get vitriolic and tribalist about it. That is fomenting more discourse, and therefore that's his business. I often call him the Northrop Grumman of pro wrestling, and for those who don't get the reference, Northrop Grumman makes weapons and sells them to both sides of the war, and they make money. You know, just as long as there's wars, they keep making money, and that's what a guy like Thurston does. You have other outlets, Cultaholic, and there's others, right, where if you make fun of AEW, or in the case of WWE, if you make fun of WWE, right, they come after you or they view you as an enemy. So they're creating a war between you and them, which ultimately keeps them relevant because the people who don't agree with you will support them and vice versa.
But MJ, is that worth basically your integrity as a channel, your integrity as a website, you know, using this tribalistic nature just to get views, just to get clicks? Is this more of an ethical thing to do? Or is it the right thing to be, I'm going to stay over here, give my honest opinion, or I'm just going to scream, make a fool of myself, and everyone's going to like what I'm doing, so negativity gets me views, gets me money. It's a hard way to look at things, because who's honest and who's just putting on an act just so they get more views?
George, where do you live? Because I know that Jake is a resident of the U.S. Are you a resident of the U.S.?
Yeah, I'm in Arkansas.
Have you consumed any of our news outlets?
Like
any of them, like from
no.
the New York Times and Washington Post to CNN and Fox News. Well, no. I say this because the next thing I'm about to say, all right, from Wall Street to J Street to Main Street, It's all out the window, man. It's all about trying to foment narrative, trying to create your little corner of the internet, your little corner of influence, and trying to peddle narrative and trying to peddle influence. And, you call it propaganda. You guys see me do that a lot. And people are like, that's not propaganda. They think propaganda is like something out of the 1940s. And I'm like, no. Modern day propaganda. People will tell you Joe Biden is as sharp as a tack up until the point where it's obvious to everyone. And then they'll say, we all knew this. And then they'll move on to the next thing. Or they will tell you that they will tell you X, Y, and Z, and then, and I don't mean to be political about that, but I just use that because it's like one of the most famous examples, right?
Right, and it's a recent example. No, and and if it's bringing up something, we're not talking. No one's being political. It's the topic of it. It's because everybody wants to be first. Nobody wants to be right. Like they care more about being first. Hey,
that's true, and you see that in sports. Oftentimes in sports media, it's the first story that sticks. And then the corrections and the retractions and the updates they're there, but they're almost like they're superfluous. Like who cares because everyone already has a thought of what people don't know the outcome of the Amber Heard Johnny Depp court case. They just know Johnny Depp got canceled and, something womanizer. And it's like, well, do you know how the case went? Right. You have the case in Major League Baseball, and I'm doing all this because I want to give real examples, right? The case in Major League Baseball where I think is it Trevor Bauer, the pitcher, all right, who got accused of sexually assaulting somebody. Yeah. All right, got kicked out of the league. No team would sign him. He's untouchable. He has to go to Japan to earn a living.
Mexico. He's in Mexico.
Is he in Mexico now? Because I know he was in Japan. All right, and he's playing great, by the way. Or at least he was in Japan. But at the end of the day, he was found to be totally exonerated. The woman made up the whole thing, and she ended up having to get sued and paying out for libel and defamation. So, but nobody remembers that. They just remember the very first thing that was reported and what that outcome was.
Yeah, because the headline, nobody reads the newspapers anymore, but in the example of it, like the headlines on the first page takes up the entire first half of the newspaper, and the retractions are in section C, page 22 in the bottom right corner. Or the story leads off Sports Center and the retractions, at the end after the top 10 when everybody's turned off the TV.
Or it's on ESPN.com that nobody's going to.
Yeah, exactly.
And George, just to circle back to your question, and I swear I'll tie this back to wrestling because I have a good segue. All right. To answer your question, is it ethical? Is it right? Is it worth it? I don't think anyone would argue it is, but I don't think anyone would argue that it's not what happens in regular life in all aspects of life that we consume at this point because we're a consumption, population. We spend more time consuming stuff, whether it's through social media, whether it's through content. Certainly news has died off, but whether it's news. So you spend all this time consuming stuff, and who can even say what's real or not? And that's why fake news is now viewed as fake news. And it's not just related to the anchors on CNN. It's literally everything is fake news because who can even say what the truth is?
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. That's why when you asked me if I consume any news, I said, no, I can't.
Yeah.
I think he thought I was you, George, because I answered
he answered the question. That's all I care about.
It's all good.
I know.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Anthony. My apologies.
No, Cultaholic was a great example because a few years ago, I was a massive fan of their work. There was some point, and I know when the point was, that they changed. And them, like What Culture had already gone that way, but they went even worse. It was the first all in for moving to London or being in London. Everybody sold out their dignity or their credibility to get interviews with people, from AEW to be a part of All In where they could. I know Simon Miller basically sold his soul to be on the pre-show as a security guard for Big Show. And I was a massive fan of Cultaholic. And from that point, you started to see way more of the stories that were always going to be anti-WWE, pro AEW. They were always leaving snide comments. And about 2 years ago, I just completely unfollowed them. And I used to watch most of their stuff. And
I was the same way, man.
Yeah.
I used to follow Cultaholic. I'd see their 5:00 in the morning, first news release because they're over in the UK, which was perfect for me.
I did the same thing. It was great. Yeah.
And then when they were building up to their first London show, I saw that they were doing a taping outside the stadium. And I'm like, okay, this is nice. They're getting some recognition. And then you started to see the narrative change where they were really really starting to go heavy on AEW support. And it was like, okay, you're getting some actual stuff going on here. I get that. And then the other one for me was Wrestle Talk. They used to be, during the pandemic, they were great to listen to. They had their little game shows. They were funny. But then when you start watching their breakdowns of the weekly TV, it was real heavy on AEW can do no wrong. Oh, here's WWE doing a cold match for no reason. Dominic coming out to no heat, and everything was another shot. Yep, I'm like, this doesn't sound fair to me. This doesn't seem like
it's just complete. It's complete bias, and that's what they all did. And the problem is so many wrestling fans are dumb enough and to think that they're actually being subtle with it or not notice it. But any of us who can actually, have cognitive thought, we all know it. And like, they've all become a joke now. And I mean, like, I was to the point I sent an email to them, for their podcast that they read on the show. Like, they had a picture of my cat on the show. It was awesome. And that was, like,
hey, MJ,
and similar to FTR. They were my favorite thing in wrestling until 2022. And then they shit the bed and have gone nuts. And now I can't stand them.
Jake, you're hitting on something that is, maybe for a different time and for a place. And, I think people think I'm joking when I say I've concluded my research into sicko culture.
You're done, dude.
Part of what I am interested in, and I've always used wrestling as a proxy, because wrestling's always been early to things, and also reflected society in a way that, it's something I follow and I consume and have become involved in the past, whether it was, with Post Wrestling or WrestleNomics. It's something that I can take a lot out of and apply to other things in life. And after years of doing this, and I see true reflection and value in that, it's like, well, why would I stop? Because this is informative to me. You mentioned, people are dumb. And if you peel back the layers on the onion, which I'm not going to fully do here, but if you peel back the layers of the onion, what you would notice or what you would observe is that AEW and AEW's media arm, and those are the outlets that you're mentioning, they're the other ones that people know, they are intentionally targeting the most vulnerable and the most manipulated aspects of society for whatever reason that may be, but that seems to be who gravitates to them. And for them as a business, that is their audience, and that is who they target, and that is who pays them. And so they lean all the way in, and AEW has leaned all the way in. Now, is it good business sense? Disney would tell you no. The tech world would tell you no. But if you just need to make your monthly goal and you can do it appealing to a fringe minority or a niche market target audience, I can't say that it's bad business. I get it. It's not, I don't think it comes from the most genuine place, but I also don't know how conscious they are to doing it, because I think in their world, and they have to live in this kayfabe bubble that they've created, that is reality. And none of them would ever like to engage in a conversation about some of this. In so much that, and I mentioned Post Wrestling and WrestleNomics, right? And I can talk about the shift or the pivot that Brandon Thurston made, and I know it as intimate as anybody. They have IWC media panels where it's literally the IWC media talking about themselves. And it's like, who wants to go first, right? They're not receptive to anything other than what they are already saying to and about themselves. And then
just like the press conferences where they, you put on this amazing show, Tony. How does that feel?
Exactly. Now, what was going on with last night's press conference? Because Tony Khan said the same 4 talking points no less than 100 times.
Oh God, I haven't watched it because that's what they always are. It's just him repeating himself. Yeah.
Last night was worse.
I mean, he talked,
all right, I'll check it out.
He talked about Dustin Rhodes' Wikipedia entry, all right, for the TNT title, and all the times he failed to achieve winning it. He didn't just talk about it while Dustin Rhodes was on the stage. He literally did it a second time during the Tony time. And I don't for the life of me understand what the value in this is, because you could be using that, and let's say he's preaching to a choir. You could be using your opportunity to preach to the choir by getting different talking points out and not wasting everybody's time with what essentially is a filibuster, because you don't want to answer questions. Maybe he's nervous that he's going to be asked questions that he doesn't want to answer, and instead he just rambles and rambles and rambles. And it's not endearing. It's not like, oh, Tony, you're so quirky. It's a deliberate filibuster. Which gets into, and I'd like to just circle to this, you guys can take me in different directions, but the situation with Adam Cole.
Oh man. That's just,
it's sad.
But it's not,
is it surprising?
Not in the least.
No.
And that's what even makes it sadder, to be honest, cause I mean,
I think, George, you were on with me yesterday when I was on PW Times with Phil, and I kind of said, like, somebody needs to protect Adam Cole from himself.
That wasn't me, but yeah, I heard you.
Right, so at what point after somebody has had multiple concussions does anybody in the room say, hey, like, apron bumps, like, let's not.
Yes.
Maybe when Adam Cole is going to wrestle at All In, and we expect all these talents now are just having to push the limit well past any, people would probably be very, very happy and excited and say it's the greatest wrestling ever if they dialed it back like 20%. And these guys are pushing it 30, 40, 50% well beyond.
We've seen that people like when they slow it down for that AEW fans respond to that kind of stuff. When they do it, they're
going to respond to anything, right? But you have Adam Copeland jumping off a cage at the age of 50, shatters his leg, all right, which is a poor protection of an investment and an example where nobody got in the room and said, hey, dude, like, we don't need to do this.
We need this? Yeah.
The thing with Adam Cole, if you're going to have him be wrestling on the pay-per-view, set the match up. He doesn't need to be taking lariats like days before. Like, protect your talent, protect your investment. If this was a business, protect your investment. The fact that the fact that it has been said by people that report things on wrestling on the internet that Adam Cole reached out to AEW, or Tony even said this yesterday, that he was contacted by Adam like in the morning, Saturday morning, early hours, maybe Friday night, all right? And that he wasn't feeling well. The Khans own the Jacksonville Jaguars. There is not a league in all of professional sports that has more strict and is more under the microscope when it comes to safety protocols related to concussions and head injuries. So the fact that somebody who has had concussions, who we have seen take bumps that kind of make everybody say, wait a second, that this can go undetected. All right, if Adam Cole doesn't pick up the phone and call Tony Khan, or if somebody doesn't contact AEW and say, hey, I don't know that I feel so great, all right, AEW is probably allowing them to perform.
Yeah, because they don't know.
That's a good point.
And the fact that there is no monitoring of these talents, all right, and I just went through putting together something that, an accident is an accident, an exception is an exception. But I'll just highlight and hit bullet points here. I won't go through what I put together. I'll send it to you guys separately, all right? When you have talent repeatedly looking like they are hurt on TV, looking like they are suffering a concussion in the case of Hook, and then you have the quote-unquote journalists reporting or gaslighting the viewer. That's not what happened. The bump that Adam Cole took was totally safe. You guys just don't understand wrestling. Or Dave Meltzer saying Hook did not have a concussion, only to have him on the show weeks later where Hook himself says, I'm suffering from a concussion. All right?
He ate bad potato chips, MJ.
But that is like legitimate stuff. And where are the grown-ups? Where are the grown-ups that simply say, time out, we're talking about the well-being of people that we claim to care about their safety. You have a Shibata Shibata to this day cannot go to New Japan and have a full wrestling match, and yet he has hardcore matches in AEW.
Ugh.
All right. And this is somebody that has had like major brain injuries and surgery and had to be hospitalized and in a terrible accident that happened, because accidents are accidents. But my point in saying all this is when you have trends, when you have repeated occurrences of this stuff happening, where are the adults? Where is where is the journalists? Where are the media to say, hey, like, we're on board to promote the shit out of you guys, but we're also not going to be blissfully ignorant, because at the same time, all they do is profess that they care about talent safety. And yet they were the first ones to cheer.
Safest company in wrestling.
They're the first ones to cheer when Will Ospreay brings a Tiger Driver 91 or 82 or 69 into the ring. They are the first ones to cheer how great that death match was yesterday. They're the first ones to tell you, to tell you that, I lost my train of thought, but they're the first ones to argue for talent safety, and they're the first ones to turn an ignorant eye to what is happening. So,
like, seriously, like, they were the ones that told me that the bump where Fletcher power bombed into the apron, that was fine for Adam Cole when he hit the back of his head.
And let's say it was
3 weeks ago, maybe 4.
Yeah, it was about like a month or right, exactly.
Right.
And let's say
Like,
that the bump. Let's not say that bump is what did it. Let's say he was fine. Let's say that it was protected. Maybe Adam Cole shouldn't be taking these kind of bumps when he literally has been outspoken about how long and what that recovery was like and how severe it was from the last concussion. All right.
Yeah.
And
Plus, it's an accumulative effect too.
It is.
I've had concussions, and if you do something too soon, even if you fall on the ground, your head still rattles around. You know what I mean?
And this is why I bring up the fact that Tony Khan, the Khan family, the owners of AEW, are one of 32 owners of the NFL in the NFL who is more than aware of all of this. And to me, as a fan, all right, not tribalistic, not trying to dunk on AEW, as a person who has grown up since I'm like 7, 8 years old and loves wrestling, it is unacceptable that we are going to pretend like this is normal, like this is something that we're going to gaslight people for questioning or for, I raised a question to my friends, and I'll reference them, and I have a history with them, John Pollock and Brandon Thurston. I raised the question, AEW is using blood on almost every show last summer. What is their blood testing protocols? Because to me, I remember the Nigel McGuinness stuff. And they mocked me for saying that. They then banned me from asking questions via Super Chat, which only took food off their table. But at the same time, all right, lo and behold, Nigel McGuinness is cleared. And I know that he's come out and he said, well, I didn't retire because of concussions and hepatitis C. No shit, you're going to come out and say that during your PR tour to get back in the ring because you want to get back in the ring, because wrestlers will wrestle until they fucking die or their heart stops, like Ric Flair. And we act like we don't know this. We act like this is like something that is, it's a third rail that we're not allowed to talk about. But the reality is somebody has to protect these people from themselves. No one at AEW seems to want to do it. The media, the journalists, even the ones that profess to be non-tribalistic, they don't seem to want to do it. And I find it to be unsettling and not fun as a wrestling fan to watch a show and to be constantly thinking to myself, am I going to watch someone die in a ring? And I'm not being hyperbolic.
No, it's the truth.
You're absolutely right.
I got a question. This is actually for George. George, do you remember the Jaguars game where Trevor Lawrence got knocked out and they couldn't even find a cart for this guy to get him off the field? This is your $200 million star franchise quarterback on a night game, and you're seeing him limp to the sidelines with no help whatsoever. This is a con issue. If you value your star quarterback like that, you value anybody like that.
Yeah, what they did was normally when you see an NFL injury, if it's a major injury, you'll see the gurney come out, and then the ambulance comes right out onto the field a lot of times, or they take precautions.
Right.
In this case, they couldn't even find a golf.
Yeah.
They couldn't find a golf cart for the dude. Nothing. They kind of just dragged him off. It was
the golf cart still chasing Sammy Guevara around the field?
Good callback. Good callback.
Thank you. I felt pretty good about it.
You know, Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, he's probably the most famous example, right? And ultimately, WWE cleared him, and they were very strict with the monitoring of his health status. All right, he comes to AEW, and he's unleashing the American Dragon of old. All right, and all last summer, I don't know if people recall this, he kept talking about the fact that his neck was destroyed. Now, it's one thing if you're talking about my neck is destroyed in a kayfabe sense, but we have empirical evidence that he had to retire due to this. And yet, nobody had an issue watching Daniel Bryan put his body on the line. All right? But I guarantee you in like 30, 40 years, when he is like a crippled old man, and I don't wish that on him, but it's just going to happen. All right? There will be an outpouring of like, I can't believe that this has happened, and we have to be more serious about this, and it'll be the same fucking song and dance, because at the end of the day, pro wrestling fans, just as pro wrestlers are not going to protect themselves, pro wrestling fans, and that extends to the pro wrestling media, who are just super fans who turn this into a profession.
Right.
They want to consume it all. They want to consume every last ounce of blood. They want to consume every last ounce of pile drivers. All right. There was always that like, well, why is the pile driver banned? That's stupid. I don't know. Maybe because a few broken necks later, it's not stupid.
Right.
And these people who care about the well-being and the time off and the safety and the quality of life, they don't give a shit. And if I can pivot that into this Evolution pay-per-view tonight, all right, and this ties back to something we just talked about with being first, not being right, and setting the narrative. They were so quick to say that Evolution was a failure due to 4,000 ticket sales that was suspiciously reported. All right, that show's probably going to succeed, going to do 7,000, be watched by 1 million people. But for all the people that care about women's wrestling, all right, why exactly was the narrative so quick to be it's a failure?
Yeah, that was strange to me.
Well, and wasn't it that like they were going off some off numbers because they were just looking at the numbers that weren't sold with the package,
right?
Because they did a two-pack. They did the deal like we were talking about earlier, where they did Saturday's Main Event and Evolution in one package. They were looking at just the Evolution tickets that were sold outside of the package, which I mean it wasn't a ton more, but it was definitely more than they were reporting, and because they don't care. They just want it to fit their narrative. That's how they always operate.
Because I don't have a relationship. Because I at one point had a relationship with guys like John Pollock and Brandon Thurston, all right? And I listen to their shows to this day every Wednesday. I listen to the recaps that John Pollock does with his co-host, who's actually not a bad dude. All right, they were talking on Wednesday. I mean, John Pollock was declaring the show a failure. It was Wednesday.
Jesus.
All right. And that was on faulty data that you just mentioned, Jake.
Yeah.
And by the way, if we're supposed to celebrate all wrestling and celebrate women's wrestling and we want to, give divas a chance, turned into the women's revolution, turns into evolution. And all right, maybe we shouldn't then just immediately for our tribalistic needs go shit on a women's show without giving it a chance first.
Yeah.
At the same time, somebody like a Dustin Rhodes, who's a very big proponent of, enjoy all wrestling, all right? It's not like any of them come out and say, hey, what they're doing with counter programming, okay, everyone sees it for what it is. You don't have to say the obvious out loud, but also let's dial back the rhetoric in terms of like shit. And I'm not saying Dustin did this, but he stands out as a kind of person that is in a position to use his voice as an enjoy all wrestling preacher to actually tell people enjoy all wrestling. And it's notable when they go silent.
Oh, definitely. MJ, do you know the story? Are you watching the pre-show for Evolution or no?
I am not at the moment. Is it on?
It starts in 15 minutes. We're going to start wrapping.
When does the show? The show starts at 7?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
good
know
thing. I thought it was 8.
I wanted to bring something up to you that I noticed during the coverage. They're actually having people register to be the first to know when to get the pre-sale tickets for WrestleMania next year go on sale. So you scan the code, and
Yeah.
you're pre-registered to know before tickets go on sale for Vegas.
Yep. The pre-sale. That's how they,
amazing that they're doing that.
I mean, yeah, there's certain, because they know there's certain, that's for the people that are there's certain people that's what they do. That's their big trip every year. They go to WrestleMania. So there's certain people that like, they'll be all set up for it. Yeah. I'm not surprised they're doing it, but.
Yeah, I wanted to bring it up while you were on.
I've often harped on the go-to-market strategy. You guys have heard me use that phrase a lot, and that includes a lot of different things, so it's all encompassing. But part of that is the ticketing strategy, the pricing, how you go to market and advertise, or local promotion, national promotion. WWE is pulling it's not a secret. I'm a investor in TKO, and I continue to trade TKO. I've done that for years with great success, publicly. I posted on Twitter. I've talked about it on WrestleNomics, right? But they are pulling every single lever of the ticketing and the live events business strategy that there is to offer, from dynamic pricing to maximizing their revenue and cutting out the brokers, to being able to say, here's the pre-sale, to being able to know exactly how many tickets they're going to sell before the general goes on sale. They are maximizing every single ounce of that business line, live events, which is something that they were not able to do. I mean, it's funny because the Evolution is going to do 7,000, and could you, like, a few years ago, if they did like 6,500 for a Raw, it was a good night. Now they're doing 10,000 plus, and Evolution, which is quote unquote a failure, is beating, it would take 2 Dynamites or an old Raw to equal that. And that to me is, it's incredible. Separately, and I mentioned this again on Phil's show last night, but like, talk about the QR codes during the YouTube pre-show, which I don't believe aired on Prime, although I've not been able to get that confirmed. They were advertising the pay-per-view All In for Prime. And it is my impression, and I put this together, that they are doing that because they have an exclusive marketing deal with Warner Brothers to promote pay-per-views exclusively for Max, which is not happening. The stand-in is Prime. If you know anything about Prime and Warner Brothers, all right, Prime sells subscription services through their platform. So you can buy a subscription to HBO Max, and HBO gets a percentage of that sale. That's probably what is happening now, which is why you see such a heavy-handed promotion of Prime, despite the fact that they're airing a pre-show on YouTube. And YouTube is the biggest content consumption platform in the market.
Right?
Yeah, if you pay for AEW on Prime, you don't get the 0 hour. You have to watch it on YouTube, because that's what I do.
This continues the line of basically AEW is stuck in the Warner Brothers universe, and Warner Brothers vortex, and Warner Brothers is not a vortex that people want to be sucked into. It's a bit of a black hole of entertainment, and we'll see what happens in the future, but it's a bad partnership. It's one that has stifled, in my opinion, AEW's ability to go to market and to grow and to do things that actually would benefit itself, like an AEW Dark or like an AEW YouTube series, because they frankly have to do these shows that are having declining viewerships, which then translates to bad PR and a bad reputation of a company that is declining, not growing, because it's the most readily available weekly reinforcement of that narrative.
Yeah, they're stuck.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because they're stuck in that vortex, right? They're not able to show real meaningful growth, and therefore likely hurting their value, which, maybe Warner Brothers doesn't care because they're ultimately going to take over the whole thing or whatever. But, it is something that there's like a lot of little threads that when you start pulling them, the picture starts to unveil itself. And I think that one of AEW's biggest hindrances to growth is the deal they have with Warner Brothers.
Definitely. I agree.
Tony was so stuck on that. That's why he wouldn't even talk about ROH anywhere else. He wanted to be with them only, and that's only hindered him. But I mean, that's the Tony Khan, the force behind AEW, is the number one thing holding them back from growing. But
Yeah, he turns down a Ring of Honor deal from CW saying, no, we want to be in a joint with everything else. And now look, CW has NXT.
Would have been amazing. Yep.
And not only does
let's end it on this note here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you're good.
Finish your stuff.
Finish it up.
No. Not only does CW have NXT, but because the NXT has been able to be successful on CW, who else has been successful with a partnership with NXT? TNA. And who else may get on a platform, which will be one less platform that AEW has available to itself in the future. So look, like I'm a geek when it comes to this wrestling business stuff. I don't think there's anyone that can tie my shoes when it comes to this. Maybe I can't articulate it well. I'm not made for content. I don't do anything to monetize. But this is all stuff that, I mean, when I used to kick the ball around with Thurston back in the day, like, I became very aware, like, he's not thinking on this level, and I don't think anyone is, because you have to see where the puck is going, not where it is, or where it has been, which is something that you see guys like Meltzer and, you know, they constantly do that. It's where the puck was and where it is, and very few voices out there are looking at where the puck is going and putting all these pieces together to say, here's what the field will look like in 6, 12, 18, 24 months.
Yep. I appreciate the hockey reference.
They're reactive, not proactive.
Nice. MJ, you're the best at what you do, man. I'm glad you decided to come on because I asked you a couple times, and I'm glad you came on.
I try to keep a low profile. Look, it's not a secret that it's a dicey world out there. I've made my fair share of enemies, people who can't take jokes online. And also, like, part of doing that revealed to me that, like, this is their life and I pity them for that. Whereas this has always been a hobby, and you know what? Maybe making jokes at people's expenses, you never know. There's crazies out there. There are legitimately crazies out there. And so if I'm ever gun shy to do that, I'm sure somebody is lurking that would love to clip this and get something out of me that they can then go use. But the reality is now I tweet for 77.5 people, and I keep my shit to myself, and those who want to follow and those who I'm familiar with appreciate what I have to say. And you guys have noticed it's not all wrestling anymore. I'm going back to like just tweeting all kinds of random shit because I finished my research. Research concluded. Game concluded.
Game over. Woo!
That's awesome. Well, we thank you for coming out. We really appreciate it. Yeah, no, we always learn more than I can appreciate on that. I love it. That was awesome, dude. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you all.
And thanks everybody for listening. Yeah.
Enjoy
please.
Evolution. What did I say?
Yeah. I think you said Revolution.
I'm sorry. Enjoy Evolution. Look for our reviews coming up shortly at YouTube.
At youtube.com/@AltJakeTakesOn. You can also follow me here or go to my profile here and click on our, I've got the page linked right there. Please subscribe. It's absolutely free. Share it with your friends. We're going to post a new video, or with our reviews of the 4 shows this weekend. We'll post that. Yeah, that's going to be a long one, but we'll get that posted soon. I'll have this full spaces posted by the end of the night. And thanks everybody for listening. We will catch you next time. Peace.